Hey, we have to talk about something really important, and it's about grinding in JRPGs and why I never grind in JRPGs. Okay, maybe not never, but I will talk about it in a lot more detail. The origins of this topic started with streaming on YouTube on Wednesday and Friday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific. And as I was streaming playing Final Fantasy X, I found chatters encouraging me to grind in order to make the gameplay easier on myself as I was going along. And I had no idea I had an opinion on this before this came up, but my initial impulse was no, I should not be grinding or staying back in between just to get ahead. I should just keep going. And my philosophy that I didn't know I had was that I was going to fight every encounter and I was not going to run away, or I better have a really good reason to run away. And my reason for that goes back to probably a clip I saw on YouTube or something I read a long time ago about game design. May have been extra credits. But as a game developer or a game designer, their hope would be to have the game balanced enough so that when you walk through that particular linear path, you are leveled up enough to face the challenges that are ahead. And ideally, the boss fight that you have that is next is one that has the perfect amount of challenge that makes you feel engaged. Like, ooh, this is challenging and it's hard, but it's also doable and it makes me think strategically. In my multiple playthroughs of Final Fantasy X, I have discovered Final Fantasy X hits that balance. I think that if you do every battle as you walk through, you will be leveled up enough for the boss fights so that they are challenging. But it's not just that. I think that Square Enix itself doesn't want you to be grinding as you're progressing through the game. Think about the format of JRPGs. Square Enix got away from the turn-based JRPG a long time ago. They wanted even Final Fantasy X not have transitions between cutscenes and to be able to see fiends in the wild and for you to choose to encounter them. In later iterations, like in Final Fantasy XIII, they even devised blockers to prevent you from moving on too far. And in MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV, if you go into certain battles, they level you back down so that the challenge is good enough. Square Enix intends for the game to be played with a certain challenge, and they want you to be in that area, but with just the way the game is formatted, you are able to break the game. But there's more. I think that Square Enix is also trying to aim for a more international audience than they were previously. Old Final Fantasy is for more hardcore gamers, and this format has aged out. And I think that it's a very particular type of gamer, a more hardcore person, if you will, who is willing to put in the time to grind and to figure out item mining and things like that, the actual intricacies of how the game works. In other words, we need to think about the casual gamer, such as myself. Am I casual? I want to play Final Fantasy in maybe a more casual manner than maybe some viewers are comfortable with, because I'm thinking about how would the developers want me to play the game? How is this game intended to be played? What is the experience I'm meant to have? Is this a bug or is this a feature? Because even though at the same time Square Enix, I imagine, does not want us to be doing this, I think that Square Enix does want us to be doing some grinding. An example of that is the monster arena. In Final Fantasy X, it gives us monsters to capture. And in order to capture these monsters, we have to go back to other parts of the game and encounter every single monster, which means that we have to have multiple encounters. We also have a crafting system in which we need items, and in order to acquire those items, we need to be stealing or bribing, which means that we have to have those encounters. However, I think that's still just a necessary evil of this type of older game. For example, Pokemon. In Pokemon, there was definitely grinding because the only way you could catch monsters is by having that battle screen over and over again. But as technology has grown and they have taken the time, we are able to see the Pokemon out in the wild, and we can choose, oh, I'm going to encounter that one or not that one. And so it doesn't have that element of a grind of, oh, I have to encounter it, I have to run away. It's taken away that element, which I think is a bug and not a feature. So if they had the ability in Final Fantasy X, I can imagine that we would still have the monster capturing feature, but we wouldn't have to encounter them over and over again. We could just see them running in the distance and go up and encounter them. In Final Fantasy X, developers intended for us to break the game, essentially, is when it becomes open world. When we're given the airship, we have the ability to do things like capture monsters anywhere, get celestial weapons, get super powerful Aeons, and go to the Omega Ruins and fight way more powerful fiends, which means that we have to level up and find ways to become as powerful as possible to fight the strongest enemies. And other old school Final Fantasy games are this way as well, which is why it seems that this grinding element is for the hardcore people who want to experience the game plus more, if they're just not satisfied with the game by itself, story and all. So in other words, as your local everyday streamer, I guess I'm in baby mode, and I'm okay with that. But I hope to be respected as being in baby mode of playing old school JRPGs, playing them as I think that they are intended to be played. Also, let's face it, I'm really there for the story. Thank you for watching this little rant, and don't forget to join me on Wednesday and Friday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific, because I would really enjoy for you to join the community. We're going to be streaming Crisis Core next. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!